Wow, that's awesome. Big deal. Now we're gonna do the high part. Let's try. We'll go down. Go down to the basement. Okay, so we're going to have classes today, Sunday through Tuesday, and Wednesday the yeshiva is having a tiyul for the smicha students, but we might actually be renting a van, so we might open it up to other people as well. We're going to be going up to Katzrin, going for a hike.
What day is it?
Next Wednesday.
You have a sign outside that says ladies shouldn't bring condoms. Does that mean we men should bring condoms?
It means for sure not. But you're such a Gemara cup.
Yeah, what Sunday?
What is Sunday?
There's class.
No, there is class Sunday. So it's now Wednesday. And we're having Shalosh Shudas also, Mr. Shem, this week.
What's the date? Today is the 7th.
7th, yeah. Okay, so now as far as after that, there might be some classes. It's just that getting this house ready for Pesach is a huge enterprise because we got to take all the kitchen out and we have to bring down all the Pesach dishes and pots and pans and everything and do a whole big transfer. And this is a call for volunteers at some point, to go up and down the stairs about 55 times, things like that, okay?
So the easier way how to make Pesach.
I know.
I found.
Go to a hotel or to your children.
I make reservations.
Pesach hotels? Anyway, yeah. Okay. So Pesach is all about freedom, right?
My mother never thought so.
I understand. You know exactly why, right?
She often said it's a good thing that they have two cigars.
Right.
Because if a woman didn't look like she had one foot in the grave, right? The first say there, then she didn't work hard enough.
Jesus. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
So you got to work to be free, right? So what's the meaning of freedom? What's freedom? What does that mean? Hello? Somebody came in, no? Maybe Moroccan don't smash the door. I'll smash the street. Yeah. So what's freedom? What's freedom? What's freedom?
Taxation, is that representation?
But if you have representation, you're paying taxes. So yeah. No. Go on. What's freedom? I didn't know you were a politician.
A question was raised here, and I remember my first saying was, "You can do whatever you want." But then you said, and then you or someone brought an example. In the 1850s, when Lincoln freed the slaves, they could do whatever they want. And most of them went back to where they were slaves, because they didn't know what to do with that freedom.
Well, they didn't actually have freedom. They couldn't survive without the foundations of, they had to work, they had to make money, so they weren't actually free. They'd been institutionally, like, not free, you know.
They didn't know what it means to be free. What's freedom? I'm asking everybody. What's freedom? What?
Maybe having the ability to act according to how I don't know about your desires, but like being able to have the ability and the like be free of the shackles of outside things that are trying to conform you to be a certain way. Being free, having freedom is being above that, I guess, or not being affected by that. So like not being constrained by the things around you.
There's also
It's definitely a very good start that Ashley is bringing up over here. Let's so you're talking about the freedom to manifest what?
So,
To manifest, you're saying the will of God, to manifest yourself. But who is yourself?
Most people don't know.
Okay. But who is the self? Is it like, like I told you that I think it was the Berditchever went over to a chassid and put his hands on the chassid's stomach and he said, "Shalom Aleichem Shabbos." The chassid said, "Rebbe, that's my stomach." He says, "Yeah, I know, but every time that you say the word Shabbat, you're always patting your belly." So apparently you're always saying you consider your belly to be your Shabbos. So what's yourself? Your stomach, your heart, your sexuality. What is yourself?
All different parts of yourself.
Yeah. So you say that do most people behave like free people, or are they driven by something animalistic? Are you free to eat?
Mm-hmm.
You are?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you ever try not eating?
Right, sometimes.
For a long time?
No, not a long time.
So I see
Past
you're not free. So you're not free to. Are you free to breathe or not breathe?
No.
No. In other words, yeah, you chas v'sholem, a person can end his life, God forbid. But but are you free to do that? Not really. If you're a normal, healthy being, you're just wired to breathe and to eat, right?
Mm-hmm.
So who is the self? Who is the self? Who's this free? Are you free? Are you free to? Are you free to give all your money away to tzedakah?
No.
Pretty much, most of us agree on that, right? Yeah. Are you free to to open your door to whoever wants to come in.
You're free to do so, yes, but you
Yeah.
want to.
Very well. But what if you ideologically say, yeah, I'd like to do it, but you can't bring yourself to doing it?
Not free.
So you're not really, so you're not told, you're not,
You have limitations.
so you have limitations, right? You're not totally free. Are you free to, so what is that self? So Michal already answered the question before. First of all, if you know yourself, if you got to know, or when you get to know who your real self is, and we've mentioned this already a number of times, right? You can do this exercise to try to figure out who am I. In other words, after you take off all your layers of masks and things like that, we spoke about it before Purim. If you actually will do this, you will discover that you are basically, you are your neshama, your soul. That's who you are. Okay? And then if you want to go further and say, well, who is so the inner eye of my being is my soul. And who is the inner eye of my soul? Who is the eye of my soul? Hashem.
It's eye of the soul.
I, ich.
Oh.
Okay? Nicht eigen, ich, right? So so if you do that sincerely and you basically discover that God is not just Hashem out there beyond, but Hashem is your innermost essence, right? So if you were to do that sincerely, then your life would change. Your life would change. Your whole consciousness would be different. Okay. So to be free would mean to live your life in such a way that to be free would mean to live your life in such a way that you are doing what your soul would like to be doing. Right? That you are doing what your neshama wants to do. What does your neshama want to do? What does your neshama want to do? Your neshama wants to do what Hashem wants. Right? Your neshama wants to. Your neshama says, "I've got this food. I want to share it. I've got this knowledge. I want to share it. I want to do Hashem's will." That's what your neshama wants to do. That's what every one of us. That's what our neshama wants to do. Right? Now the problem is that the neshama is living in a body, right? If it's not in the body, then you're not alive, okay? And the neshama exists already before it comes into the body. So the problem is that there's a nefesh elokit, there's a divine soul, and there's a nefesh bahamit, and there's an animal soul. The nefesh elokit comes to you at 5 a.m. says, "Ben, come on, get up, let's go down." And the nefesh bahamit says, "No way, I'm sleeping now," right? Right, the nefesh elokit says, "Look at that person over there. Look, they're dragging all that heavy stuff. Let's go help him." The nefesh bahamit says, "I was just going to sit down and have a croissant and a cup of coffee, you know. And Nefesh Elokit says, let's sit down and learn. You know, now I want to go to see a movie, right? The Nefesh Elokit is sort of in a state of exile within the Nefesh HaBahamid. Now, the Nefesh HaBahamid, the animal soul, is, if it's not yet corrupted, the animal soul has is very, very important, and it's not a negative thing. Okay, it's not a negative thing at all. It's just that once it gets corrupted, that it can behave in a negative way. But nevertheless, the job of the Nefesh Elokit is to do God's will and to transform, to subjugate and to transform the egotistical self. Another way of speaking about the animal soul is the egotistical self. Then the animal soul being the soul that is making your body alive, right? The life energy of your body. And it has an agenda. It has two primary things in its agenda. And one is survival, and the other one is gratification of the self. Okay? That's why you breathe without thinking about breathing, because it's your animal soul is just operating with, you know, hey brother, Shalom, come on, wake up. You didn't breathe since 5 minutes now. Come on, we got to take a breath, you know. The animal soul doesn't have to do that. It's just, its whole instinct is that you're going to breathe. You're going to eat. You're going to sleep, etc., right? Nothing negative about that. But the question is, how am I eating? Why am I eating? Why am I sleeping? Why, you know? I once heard at a Verbringen from this Professor Bloch, a professor of philosophy. He's probably retired now, at the University of Western Ontario. He was in Montreal and doing a Verbringen with us at the yeshiva. He says, you know, that the serpent before we ate from the tree of knowledge, right? It was, the rabbis tell us, it was walking upright. And as a result, the punishment that it got was, you're going to crawl on your belly. So he gave this interesting interpretation, right? What's the difference between being upright and crawling on your belly? When you're upright, your head is on top and your butt is on the bottom. But an animal that crawls on his belly, the head and the butt are on the same level. And what's everybody's big American dream? To go to the Bahamas so you can put your head and your butt on the same level. Right? So if that's my ideal, what, is my soul free? No, my soul my soul finds itself in a state of exile, not just exile, but also enslavement. The Gemara says, in describing the extent of the possible extent of the enslavement of the soul to the body, the Gemara uses the following words: Ganva apun machtarta rachmana karya. A thief, as he's breaking and entering, is praying to God. Right? In other words, part of you says, tonight we're going to go and do the Great Train Robbery in England. You've heard of the Great Train Robbery? It's famous. There's even a movie about it.
It's before their time.
Before their time, but there's a movie. So what? There's
The movie was also before their
so what? They do a thing. Every movie that they watched was before their time.
This is your audience. They're 20s. When they're in the 20s.
Really enjoyed
That happened about 40 years ago.
You should really watch that. You should see. It's a famous story. Very, very famous story.
Okay.
The Great Train Robbery. Look it up. You'll find it anywhere. Anyway, so the animal soul says, tonight we're going to do this great train robbery, right? And then your divine soul says, no, you're not allowed to do that. The animal soul says, not only am I going to do it, you, my dear soul, are going to come along and you're going to pray that we don't get caught. Huh? You're going to like it, but you're going to pray that we don't get caught. I know that I can't do this job by myself. I need God's help. And you, my divine soul, are going to come along and you're going to pray that we're going to be successful. Right? That's how the Gemara describes the extent to which the animal soul can enslave the divine soul. Okay?
This has to be at the unconscious level, because
right.
When I want to do something, I think whether I should or shouldn't, but God doesn't come into it. My Neshama Kita, I don't analyze everything I want to do.
I didn't say that, but sometimes you do. In any case, this goes on, whether consciously, subconsciously, but the point is that even when you're doing something that's not 100% right, there's a part of you that's sort of whispering, right? That's your divine soul. That's Hashem sending you a message through your divine soul.
This is the only country in the world before a bank robber goes into the
This
bank.
is the mezuzah. And on his way, and on his way out also, I'm sure. Right? That's exactly the same thing, that we're talking about. So the question is,
there's a really great scene in Boardwalk Empire because they did.
What's that?
It's like a mob.
Also a movie
with like what Bugsy Siegel.
See, he watches movies from before his time.
No, it's recent. But he goes in and he shoots the guy in the head, and on the way out he kisses the mezuzah. It was cool. Cool.
There's a scene like that.
Yeah. They're like specifically.
I would call that a chil Hashem. Yeah. What's the name of the movie?
It's a TV show. It's with,
Bugsy Siegel was the one that took control of Florida. Yeah.
yeah.
Anyway, so.
But then again, he was right. Because you have to ask God's help for everything.
That's right.
Even when you're on the bank.
Right. So the question is, can I actually overcome the power of the animal soul? And obviously the answer has to be yes. And the question is going to be, how do we do this? Okay. But this whole discussion began with the question, with the matter of freedom. What is freedom? And freedom is basically to be the most beautiful person that you can and want to be. Well, somebody's going to say, well, maybe, how do I know that I want that? Well, if you really get in touch with your neshama, you're going to know what your neshama wants. Okay? You're going to know what your neshama wants. Honestly speaking, sometimes, you know what your neshama wants, and your body is just, and your animal soul is just so demanding and says, no, I don't, I want to have my pleasure now, right? And it's very, very hard to overcome that. So,
do you think that everyone really deep down does know the truth and has access to it?
Let's put it this way: yes, but you do have to take you have to remove the curtains. You have to remove the klipot. You have to be willing to take the time and to sit down and really get in touch with that part of your being. Now that's true. That's true. That's true even for somebody who's born into a family of righteous tzaddikim. It's true for everybody.
But I think everyone has the innate ability to do that.
It has to be. Yeah. It might. It's not everybody has the same ability to have like the same deep understanding of everything. Not everybody has the same ability to meditate for 3 hours straight, or even for 30 minutes, or even for 5 minutes, But everybody has the ability to be in touch with their essence. Have you heard of Nechama Leibovich? She passed away a few years ago. She just was a woman, a brilliant woman. She lived here in Yerushalayim. And for over 30 years, she had a radio show on Fridays talking about the Parsha of the week. And she would always leave the audience with questions. And I was at her house once, she had this huge mailbox because she would invite people to write in their answers, and she would actually respond to everybody's answers and so on. So she also, I got to study by her for 2 weeks. And there's a lot of her books have been published. And they're also available in English, like brilliant analysis and learning Torah and Rashi and commentaries. So she tells the story that, and she was like this amazing person. She one day she got a call from some girls working in a factory, somewhere in Beersheba, and they part of their work contract was that they were able to have, like, once a month, they were able to bring a guest lecturer. So they wanted to know, would she come down to this factory and give them a class in Beersheba, She said, yeah, she went, She was like that, like her whole life was devoted to teaching Torah and so on. So she says, she gets into the taxi, and it's a Friday morning. And before the driver starts to take off, another taxi driver comes over to him, and he says, hey, Kobe, there's a group of tourists that are here, and I need another driver tomorrow on Shabbat. And the way it works over here is that, there's Tarif Echad, Tarif Shtayim, taxis after 9 o'clock at night go on a different scale, and Shabbos is double. So don't take a taxi on Shabbos. Okay? Anyway, so it's good to know. So this guy, this Kobe guy, he says to his friend, he says, Lo, Shabbat, אני הולך לבית הכנסת, Shabbos I go to shul. I don't work on Shabbos. And the other guy starts saying to him, you're crazy, I know you're not so religious, and and you're going to get double the money. What kind of nonsense is this that, Shabbos and Chana Leibovich is sitting there and she's watching this story unfold. And we're talking about a simple Yid who you can be sure did not know much. Okay? And he says to his friend again, he says, no, I'm not doing it. The other guy starts badgering him, like, you're really out of your mind, and you're going to make so much money, and they're, and he says, sorry, I'm not doing it. And his friend curses him out and leaves, and he turns to Nechama Leibovich and he says, Shabbat, ani v'Hashem. Ani v'Hashem. Because it's me and God. He says, me and God, we're like this. Okay? A simple Yid. I'm sure he could have used the money. Okay? Sure he could have used the money. Okay? I got into a taxi once in Montreal. It was an Israeli taxi driver. He says to me, we're talking, he says, the other day, a passenger left a bag in the car with $8,000. Not a religious Jew, the driver. So he says, so what did you do? So he says, I called up the dispatcher and I said, if anybody claims that they lost money in a cab, get them in touch with me. I said, it must have been a big test for you. So he says, not really. He says, I know one thing. Money that's not yours, if you take it, you're going to end up paying doctor's bills and all kinds of other things that you don't want to get involved in. If it's not yours, it's not yours. You know what I mean? So, but it's a big test. It's a big test to have $8,000. You know, like $8,000 doesn't just fall down just like that, right? And so you have to have a certain strength to be free to do what you really want to do, what you really believe in. That's freedom. Freedom to love. Are you able to love every one of your brothers and sisters? Are you on that level that you can almost love that you already do love, and or that you can love every one of your brothers and sisters? If not, you're not.
Brothers and sisters, you're talking about biological.
Both. Though sometimes that's harder, I know. But if you're not able to love everybody, then you're not really free. Because what's that you're not free? Because most of us, most of the time, we like people that one way or the other, they make me feel good. Either they have something that I want, and their friend, or they're laughing at my jokes, or they're giving me honor, or this or that or that. You understand? It's ultimately, it's basically, I love myself, and you are attractive to me because there's something I want from you. There's something that you're going to vote for me, whatever it is. So I love you. But once you're no longer going to be doing these things for me, once you're no longer fulfilling these needs of mine, then you're like anybody else on the wall, like this, nothing special, right? So is a person like that free? No. He's not free. His neshama really would want to love everyone. Okay? But I'm held back because I can't love you because you go to you're from a different circle of society, like what are my friends going to say if I'm going to be friends with you? Right? What's everyone going to say about me if I go hang out with some people at the street corner pub, like things like that, and I might be going there for the best reasons, right? But can't go there, no, those are we don't associate with those people or something like that, right? Then I'm not free. Okay? I walked with Reb Shlomo once on Broadway. Couldn't believe how he had no hesitation to hug these homeless people who you could, and I'm not criticizing them, but you could literally smell them 10 feet away. Filthy. And Reb Shlomo, without any hesitation, was able to embrace these people. He was free. You can't do that? Then you're not really totally free. Okay. By the way, I had a few times I had the occasion that I was able to go with Reb Shlomo to the mikveh on Friday before Shabbos. Now he used to spritz himself up with these fancy colognes. You pronounce it cologne or cologne?
Cologne.
Cologne?
Fragrance.
Now why is there a G there?
My dad always said that cologne rhymes with alone.
Ha! Too much cologne, and yeah, for sure.
Anyway,
Men don't wear cologne, they wear fragrance.
that's from the 60s. Men wear cologne.
I think women
You
wear
don't
fragrance.
pronounce the G though.
The
I
women wear the
know. They
fragrance.
just stuck it in there so
It's
I can
like
feel my
French.
spelling mistake.
Cologne.
Anyway, so now Reb Shlomo came from a line of generations of rabbis who didn't use cologne,
Oh man.
and so we wanted to know, like, how come you're spritzing yourself up with all this cologne? So he told us when he opened up the House of Love and Prayer in San Francisco.
Oh yeah.
It was like a room not bigger than this. And on Friday night, they would do Kabbalat Shabbat, him and the hippies, they could be singing and dancing for 6 hours straight. And in those days, hippies were hippies. A real hippie back in those days would not take a bath more than twice a year, whether it was necessary or not. Okay? So he says, can you imagine what it's like to be in a room with 200 sweating hippies
Oh.
for dancing for 6 hours? He says, but he had to do it, but just to be able to survive, to be there, he used to have to spruce himself up with colognes before Shabbos so that he could actually be there with them.
That's good.
That was his reason for
That's
very,
one way to deal with it, yeah.
huh?
That's one way to deal with it.
Yeah. Anyway, but other than that, Judy worked for him for 1 year, and she told me that in wintertime he'd go out wearing the sweater and the jacket and the coat on freezing nights, and he'd come home in his shirt. Because he'd see a homeless person lying there on the street freezing, he would take off his coat and cover him. So the next one took off his jacket, so the next one he gave him, he took off his sweater and covered him. Now, are you free to do that? You saved that money to buy yourself your next mandolin is what you play, and you're on your way to getting it. You just spent 2 years putting aside 25 cents a day, and you finally got the money that you need, and so on. That's a cheap one, right? Okay, $1 a day, fine. In any case, and you're on your way to the store, and an acquaintance stops. She says, "Oh, Ben, so happy to see you. You got to save my life. I need $500 right now. I just spent 2 years saving this money to buy myself this instrument and da. And like, what? And the guy is valid. He really needs the money. Are you free to give it to him? And if you are, that's great. If you're not really totally free. Now, I didn't say you should give it to him, you shouldn't give it to him. That's not my issue now, right? I'm just trying to illustrate different levels of being free. Are you free if I said something not so nice to you today, chas v'sholom, and maybe hurt your feelings, God forbid? Are you free? Who's that?
It's you.
Behave yourself. Michal Katz. Yeah, your father's also a Kohen.
Yeah.
We just met this man who came into the Besmedrash before he was walking around. He lives in Tel Aviv. He told me he was the first one to bring to meet Shlomo Karlebach and have him do a concert, 1957.
Wow.
Anyway, so what was I?
Freedom.
I know.
Giving your shirts.
Mandolin money. He should give the money.
Yeah, that was before, but then there was ever started with something else. Okay. Oh, so if God forbid somebody says something not nice to you, maybe insults you, God forbid, and you loved them yesterday, are you free to love them today? Are you free enough that you don't even remember that they insulted you? That it doesn't get in the way. So these are all issues of like, just to illustrate, that freedom, there's slavery in the sense that, that you got a shackle around your ankle and there's a guy was standing with a whip and forcing you to do things. And then there's slavery to my own gratification, to my own desires and needs and so on. All these are
Not
different.
necessarily wrong. My own desires.
I didn't say that. We already spoke about that. I didn't say it's necessarily wrong. No, I'm just saying that if it's a situation where you know that you should be doing something and you're not doing it because of an attachment to your, whether it's a physical desire or a spiritual desire or here, I'll tell you a story with a spiritual one. When the Alter Rebbe's son, the Mittler Rebbe, got married, so that he was living in his parents' house, and they had a baby. The Mittler Rebbe was downstairs, and the baby was in this little crib. And the women went out, the grandmother and the mother, and so the women went out of the house to go do whatever they needed to do. And they left. So the Mittler Rebbe was davening, and the baby was in the crib, and the Alter Rebbe was up in the attic learning. Anyway, the Mittler Rebbe was very, very deep in his meditations and his prayers. And while he was davening, the baby fell out of the crib and was crying. But he was so deep in his davening that he didn't notice. So the Alter Rebbe came downstairs from the attic, picked up the child, took care of him, and then later on, when his son finished prayers, he said to him, "A davening was het nicht a jüdische Kind weinen is nicht kein davening." That prayer that doesn't hear a Jewish child crying is not prayer. Now, sometimes you've got this spiritual thing that you're so attracted to that I don't have time to stop and talk with you. I'm running to shul now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I'm running to do this mitzvah that's so important. Now, we're not talking about a case where, like somebody just is just pestering you with nothing important or something like that, but when it's a possibility well, I can't talk to you because you're just not, you don't fit into my crowd. You look at you. You don't. Where's your black hat? And where's your black jacket? And where's your white shirt? And where's your, you know what I mean? Like, or whatever it is. We're all guilty of it. We're all guilty of it. So Rav Steinsaltz, a number of years ago, I heard him talking on Shabbat HaGadol. The Shabbos before Pesach is called Shabbat HaGadol. You know why it's called Shabbat HaGadol? Anybody? No?
That's when they go after the.
It was the 10th, that's correct. It was the 10th of Nisan, and we were supposed to get ready for our Exodus. And the way we were going to go get ready was that we had to slaughter the Korban Pesach, the Paschal lamb, on the night of Makat Bechorot, the night that the plague of the firstborns, right? And we were told that 3 days before we have to bring this sheep home. to make sure that it doesn't get any blemishes. Now, the Egyptians worshipped that animal. Can you imagine a Jew who for 210 years was a slave, and he's bringing home this sheep, and this Egyptian guy who just yesterday may have been whipping him, he says, "What are you doing with that animal?" And the Jew says, "We're going to sacrifice it." Okay? Do you know how deeply free you have to be able to do that? To be able to say to the guy who was whipping you just yesterday, not only am I going away from here and you're not going to be able to do any of this to me anymore, but that God that you worship and that system that you worship that makes you think that it's all right to be a slave master, it's all going to be destroyed. And we're starting to do that right now. This animal, I'm going to slaughter this animal, and we're going to roast it, and we're going to eat it. Okay.
Oh, weren't
Huh?
That's what it's called.
I hear you.
weren't Jews slave masters? It's just throughout history, you know.
Let's rephrase that.
Like,
Were there some who did that? Very possibly.
well, we were.
But no, we weren't. It's not in our ideology to do that. And yes, there were some people who got involved in that. That's true, but it's definitely not according to our ideology.
Jews have this is just a quite like because Jews have had slaves.
Servants, and if you're ever going to have a servant, you got to know that if you have one pillow, according to halacha, your servant, your slave, gets to sleep on it, not you. Okay, what that is about in the Torah is referring to Parshat Mishpatim. Somebody stole. We didn't used to have a prison system. He got caught. He has to pay back double. He doesn't have the money, right? So the Beit Din would sell him as a slave for a maximum of 6 years, okay? And it's true, we were allowed to have Canaanite slaves, okay? But even then, there's a whole bunch of laws about how you treat them. Understand? And abuse is out of the question.
Yeah, wasn't it like
No,
just
no,
like,
I'm just saying, but just that the way that's why I wanted to correct the way you said it.
yeah.
But then, yes, were there people who did things that were not right? Of course, we're human. We just because we have a mitzvah doesn't mean that we're always living it. But
Yeah.
Same as for a non-Jewish servant.
there are differences. There are differences in halacha, but even an Evet Knani, you still have to treat with respect. Right? But are you free not to use people? Let's put the question this way. Are you free to have a relationship with people without using them? Like have you ever felt that you were used by somebody that they hadn't, right? Are you so perfectly on the level that you're not using anybody? It's a very, very high level not to use somebody. Reb Shlomo refrained from asking people for favors. And sometimes he had to, but because he knew that if he's going to ask somebody to do something, they're going to do it, right? He could have very easily fallen into that, into the thing of using people. So freedom to sum this up, is the freedom to love altruistically, to love for no reason, the freedom to be kind to the nth degree, the freedom not to tell a lie, the freedom not to speak Lashon Hara, the freedom not to listen to Lashon Hara, the freedom to study Torah, the freedom to do God's, the freedom to manifest your soul to be that most beautiful person that God dreamt of when he dreamt about you before he created the world.
I'm free to do anything, as we say. I one thing years ago saw on a bumper sticker. Of course I can do it. The question is, do I want to? I'm free to do anything. Not all things that I'm free to do I want to do.
Right. But you understand the point that we're making. And so that's what basically we're getting into is like, celebrating our freedom. So I started telling you that Reb Steinsaltz was giving a Shabbat HaGadol drosha. He was speaking in the shul in the old city. And he said to the people, how many, in a couple of days you're going to be sitting at the Seder. How many of you can honestly say that you are free? How many people do you think picked up their hands? None. You're a prophetess. None. So he said, well, then what are you going to be celebrating on Pesach? Right? What are you going to be celebrating on Pesach? So everybody was like pretty upset about that. And he said, it says in the holy books that if you want to be free, that's also a lot of people don't even want to be free. Oh, my big rock star, just tell me what to do. I want to do what you tell me. Yeah. Or this or that, whatever it is. That was just one example. If you want, as a matter of fact, it's very interesting. When I was teaching back in Montreal, it was a grade 7 class, I believe, and I asked the kids about freedom. All right, no, actually, we were talking about idolatry. We were learning about the golden calf. And I asked the kids, like, what's idolatry today? And there was one girl that never spoke the entire year in class, never offered any answers. She felt like very timid about speaking up in class. And this time she actually spoke up. And she said, rock stars are idols. Right? It's idolatry. If you are doing something because the rock star is doing it, right? Whether you agree with it, whether you don't agree with it, this is what John Lennon is doing. It's got to be good, right? Or whoever it might be. See, that they know John Lennon, even though it was before their time. No, you don't know. He's an idol, and idol worship. Anyway, so she spoke up and she said, rock stars are also a form of idolatry, right? So Reb Steinsaltz said, if you want to be free, that's also a level of freedom. He looked around the shul and he saw that there were still a lot of people like thinking about what he said, like, do I really want to be free? And then he said, it also says in the holy books, if you want to be free, it's also a level of freedom. And then somebody else said, if you want to be free, you're probably sitting in a Chinese restaurant. Okay? But in any case, that itself is so important to think about. Do I want to be free tomorrow morning when I get up, or the rest of the day today? Do I want to do what my neshama wants to do?
How do we know?
Ask Moshe. There's a website called Ask Moses. I'm serious.
Okay.
How do we know?
How do I know?
Moshe, tell.
What your neshama what?
How do I know?
Ask
How
it.
do I know?
Ask it.
I want to know what the my neshama wants, and
Ask
the
it.
neshama behema answers.
Ask it, and then think about the answer that you hear,
Okay.
and think to yourself: is this who's talking now? Is it my behemoth or is it my soul? And if you meditate on it and you think about it, see, sometimes it's the truth of the matter is, he's asking a very good question, because the line between the positive and the negative could be so delicate that the only way that you're going to know that you're making the right decision is if you pray to Hashem, that Hashem should help you make the right decision. Because there are times where, it's like there are times where the choosing between good and evil is just an obvious thing. Okay? But there are times where the choice between good and evil is so delicate, it's very easy to deceive yourself. Okay? Back in the 70s and the 80s, you've heard of them? The 70s and the 80s? 19th century.
It was before their time.
19th century was before your time too. Anyway, so
They were born at the end of the 1900s.
Yeah,
Not in the middle.
I'm saying, but 19th century is the 1800s. Anyways, it doesn't matter. I'm just kidding. So there was a time that a lot of psychologists and therapists, they thought that they were doing their patients a favor by having physical relations with them.
Really?
Yeah. And
Continued on.
And it continued on for a while, and until finally these people started to speak up and they said, "What do you think you're doing?" Now, I imagine that some of them,
for the session?
I imagine that stick to music. I imagine that that what do you call it? I imagine that some of them may have been very sincere in their initial intentions,
Can't imagine.
but no, it's like see, the thing is it was a concept that was floating around. You understand? There was a concept that was floating around, and not everybody's a critical thinker and so on. Okay, so sometimes you think you're doing something good for somebody, and there's such a delicate line, and you don't realize it, and you find out that what you were really doing all along was you were just trying to satisfy your own gashmiistic desires for gratification. Okay. Sometimes you think, and that was a pretty coarse example that I gave you, but it can be in much more subtle ways also. Sometimes you think, "Oh, I'm doing you a favor. Baloney, you might just be knocking this person down." Okay, you give somebody a piece of cake, you say, "Here, look, I'm being very nice to you," and so on, and maybe you are, but underneath it all, you might have an agenda that that I'm going to 5 minutes later I'm going to be taking something from you. Okay, And sometimes it's so subtle that the only way that you can really, hopefully, make the right choice is mamish pray to Hashem. Not only, Hashem, do I want you to show me what's the right choice, I also want you to give me the koyach to choose the right choice. Because Hashem could answer your prayer and show you what's the right choice. It doesn't mean that you, and it's also possible that I'm going to shut my eyes and I'm going to turn my back and say, I don't want to know about that now because right now I want that gratification. So read Yeshayahu, read the prophets, you see what we were like, in times. And he describes us, like that we were already blind to injustice, and we were deaf to the cries of the suffering people and so on. And you walk in the streets and you see all the stuff that's going on all around you, and we walk by, and we and part of us says, well, what can I do about it? Maybe it's true. Maybe you can't do anything about it. I don't know. Like, not depending on the situation, but we do become insensitive to these things, right? So freedom is a huge thing to really be free, to not to give in to any kind of rivalry, not to give in to anything that's going to stop you from really being your beautiful soul self and living that. So that's why the Talmud says, Ein lecha ben chorim ki ben Torah, that you really want to be free, you really got to be connected to Torah. That's why it says that the words of God were harut al aluchot, engraved on the stones, and it's the way. So the word harut means engraved, but it can also be read chirut, as free. Okay. So who is a real free person? Is the person who's really connected with Hashem, because God is the only true free being, and being that's the case, by connecting with Hashem, you are connecting with the source of freedom. Have a good Shabbos, everybody. We're having Shabbos. If you're around, please come, okay?
Before we continue, what's the schedule for next week?